What's good? Watch the Commander fans. This is your boy, LiveWire Sports Media. I'm here with actually, two very special guests. One, um, Gray, and his co-host Brandon Scott. They both host the Washington Maniacs, Football Maniacs on YouTube. I've been following them for a while. Great stuff for these guys. I've been trying to get it, work with them and everything, and everybody's schedule so busy. But we're gonna cover a pretty good much portion today because we have a lot of great stuff to go over. So without further ado, I'm gonna hit the intro and we're gonna start the show.
After the game, it's the aftermath. Win or lose, we still wave our commander's flag. Riding with Wentz under center, making the pass. Jahan Dotson, young rookie, making a splash. That burgundy and gold, that's what we about. Jonathan Allen knocking QBs to the ground. We die hard and nobody can shut us down. Cause this is the greatest show in town. Let's go! Go, 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 go.
All right, so we back. So guys, I think since I'm gonna start with Greg first at the top. Tell me how you got started. How long you been a Washington fan?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I guess I'm going to show my age on this one. I actually got started as a Washington fan back in 1981. I was about 6 years old around that time. And of course, football was on Sundays after church. And, of course, it was the Redskins because, we were in Virginia. And I don't know what it was. At 6 years old, I just became so fascinated with the game of football and especially the Redskins. And it's funny, it's like what attracted me, the logo, the colors and all that. But it was also guys like Joe Gibbs and John Riggins. Like John Riggins, actually, they're almost like superheroes to me. And so I fell in love with that team earlier on, and of course it was the best time to fall in love with them because they won the Super Bowl the year later and returned to the Super Bowl even after that. So I was very blessed, and just it was a treat growing up being able to watch the Redskins play and just how good they were, and it was just a fantastic time, and I've stuck with them this whole time, and I know we've had some low times, but they're coming back, man. We're going to have some glory years pretty soon. I can feel it.
All right, sounds good. All right, Brandon, tell me a little bit about you and what got you to be a Washington fan.
Oh man, I've been a Washington fan since I came out the womb, man. I mean, my first diaper was burgundy and gold. I'm just trying to tell you, So, I've been in love with this team since I was old enough to know any better, man. And we've been through some low times, Dan Snyder, but it's really good to see a new era in Washington football. You know what I mean? Because I'm an '85 baby, man. So I remember the Super Bowl years, but I wasn't really, involved. I was a baby, so most of the time, most of my fanhood has been underneath Dan Snyder. So new ownership, new coaching staff, new everything, man. I'm very optimistic, and I haven't felt that way in a long time, man. So I definitely feel blessed, man.
All right. Well, Greg, I don't want you to be the only one that's showing your age. So even though I don't look it, but I could relate. My mom got me actually into being a Washington fan, bless her. So I used to be a 49 fan. I was a big Joe Montana guy.
I can understand that.
And I switched. It was just something about that burgundy and gold, the Hogs, John Riggin. I got to see my very first Super Bowl with him, with the Washington Redskins when he beat the Miami Dolphins on that long touchdown run. I was so nervous because I thought they was gonna lose, and I was like, oh, and I told my mom, I said, oh my God, he ran, he took it to the house, and ever since then they stuck with me, and I've been, like you say, through the growing pains and the glory years, and the Super Bowl record with Doug Williams, Art Monk, the Fun Bunch, all of these guys, man, Joe Jacoby, Daryl Mann, all of them, and it just things don't go away. And lo and behold, Daniel Snyder had to grab his hands on this franchise. So it's been painful, but like you said, Greg and Brandon, that now we in a new era. Now we in a situation where we can make some noise going into next year. I said this, I feel this in my heart, that we going to be going from worst to first.
Yeah.
I think we going to take a path like the Green Bay Packers did the season, the Houston Texans. And I just believe in what Josh Harris and what they have done with this coaching staff, hiring Dan Quinn. I just don't think there was any other fit for this team. I know we always crying for Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, which I was a huge Mike McDonald fan. I wanted him over Ben Johnson. Yeah. I was just, something about Ben Johnson's offense was a little bit still stagnant with me because they couldn't get over 20-something points. As talented as that offense is, you would have think they were scoring like 28, 30 points a game. And they didn't. And they find themselves struggling a little bit. So now I definitely want to get into the combine and the draft situation. And when I want to, y'all guys' thoughts on what y'all looking for with the combine that's coming up now, starting today. Brandon, I'm going to hit with you first on that question.
What I'm looking for in a quarterback, man, that's a good question, man. Because looking at Cliff Kingsbury and his offense, obviously you want a guy who, arm power. I mean, you hit that with Drake May, but then his comments talking about Jaden Daniels really rings something in my head because there's a lot of interest when it comes to Jaden Daniels, man. And I see why there would be an interest in him because he's just, like they said, he's a game changer. So I can see that. I think the only thing that really gets me about Jaden Daniels is his size, man. I mean, we've got to solidify this O-line because as many hits as Sam took last year, I mean, Jaden can't get hit like that, man. I mean, he's, because what is he, 6'3", 212. So Drake May is around 225. And that's why he gets a lot of comparisons to Josh Allen because he's a bigger guy. And Sam Howell, he's kind of a bigger guy too. So he took a lot of hits. So
yes, he did.
Absolutely. So looking at Jaden Daniels, if he is the guy, which is, all arrows are pointing him being the guy at number 2. If he is indeed the guy, they've got to protect him. They got to bolster O-line, and they got to put, through the offensive play call and put him in the best position not get hurt, man. Because, like I said, he's got to put some muscle on. So,
yeah, I agree with you on that. I definitely agree with you on that, Greg.
Well, the thing is, we're not really getting a chance to see these top guys as far as quarterbacks go in the combine because all three of those guys, Williams, May, and Daniels all decided we're not going to participate in the combine. We'll just do pro days. So, we'll have to wait till pro days to really get a showcase with them. And, I kind of, in a way, I don't like that because, you can kind of pre-select, plays that make you look good and with your receivers that you were, used to playing with during the season. And so I feel like sometimes it's kind of a false representation of these guys. Like, I think, it's a better feel for these guys when you can put them in situations where they're not as comfortable because they're going to be in those situations in the NFL. So, honestly, to answer your question as far as like what I'm looking forward to in the combine, it's the less sexy positions. It's, how are the linemen going to perform in the combine, the linebackers, because, I know that Jamin Davis had continued to improve, but I think we still need some help at linebacker. So I want to see how those guys perform. Obviously, we need offensive lineman help. So, so it's
God
guys
we do.
Golly, right? I mean, so, that unfortunately, and maybe outside of maybe tight ends and receivers, as far as skilled positions, I really want to see how the the guys up front and linebackers and defensive linemen do in the combine.
Yeah, like I have it on record, so I'm pretty much gonna go back and rewatch everything because I haven't really got a feel, so I can get a better analogy of everything that's going on from day to day, especially this weekend with the quarterback, the few quarterbacks that's throwing the ball. I'm with y'all guys. There's so many holes on this team that needs to be filled, but we definitely has to get our franchise quarterback. Now, Brandon and Greg, I listened to y'all last segment a couple of weeks ago when y'all was talking about trading down for number 2, in which you had some really great points, and I'm like, dang, I ain't really thought about that, but then it made more sense. That number 2 pick is very valuable because they can do so much with that pick. And I watch a lot of college football, and I had watched Caleb Williams when he was at Oklahoma. I'm an ACC guy because Miami Hurricanes is my team, and I watched Sam Howell, and I have watched Drake May. Even though I was at the North Carolina game this year in Chapel Hill when Miami should have beat Drake May, and we rattled him, and then they changed their game plan in the second half. Then I watched Jaden Daniels. I didn't know nothing about him at Arizona State, but then knowing that you watch SEC football, he's going to pop out. And I watched Bo Nix. I watched Michael Penix. All of these guys. Spencer Rattler, he was there, Oklahoma transfer, and went. So I watched all of these guys. But it just, when you talk about the uniqueness of a guy that has all of it, to me, yeah, you could do the trick magical plays. That's fine. But my thing, when I look for a quarterback, how can you stand in the pocket? What throws can you make from the pocket? I have seen Michael Penix, Bo Nix, J.J. McCartney, Jaden Daniels, Drake May all make them. Now, there's no knock against Caleb Williams because he's a different type of athlete. But at some point in time, it's going to call for you to do them things. And if you can't do it at a high level, then all that athletic and scrambling around and making acrobatic plays is only going to get you so far because teams are going to adapt. And that's why I kind of weigh my option to either Drake May or Jaden Daniels, which Jaden Daniels is my favorite. So like you said, his weight is an issue, but he gained weight. He was 185 at Arizona State. He gained weight when he got to LSU. Lamar Jackson was 211 when he came out, and he bulked up. So I think Jaden Daniels can do the same thing. The unique thing is that whoever we get at quarterback, Cliff Kingsbury, Anthony Lynn is going to have balance because they're not going to pass the ball a lot. They're going to want to run the ball a little bit more. So that's going to be the unique thing about that. But I think that if they decide to trade down or say they trade for, make a trade with Justin Fields, he's not a bad quarterback. I think he's been misrepresented. Chicago is a a wasteland of quarterbacks, So, I mean, it's kind of hurtful to see his career go that way, but trying to get it. So, like I said, there's so many things that the Commanders can do with that number 2 pick. I know y'all remember this. We missed on franchise quarterback for so many years because I wanted Josh Allen so bad. When he was at Wyoming and he came out and I saw him was in the combine, he was throwing almost like 100-yard bombs. I was like, why we cannot draft this guy? Then we missed on Justin Herbert. So here we are again. I don't think we will miss. I really don't. But I'm not opposed if we traded down and got more picks or whatever the case would be. So like I said, there's a few options. Now with the combines going, there was somebody put out on Facebook or Twitter because I saw Rio Robinson's post. It was saying that Josh Harris was there, and it was like a bad sign. Now I'm gonna start with you, Greg. How do you feel about Josh Harris being there since he's the new owner? Does it bring positivity or does it bring a negative light?
I don't. Excuse me. Honestly, I think it's a nothing burger because here's the thing: you just spent over $6 billion to purchase this franchise. Getting as you said, Martin, getting the quarterback right, getting that franchise quarterback is crucial. And I think as an owner, especially someone who is new, number one, I think he needs to be able to be present to understand the process, and to at least get an idea and a feel of how things are flowing, to get an idea of how Adam Peters and company work in these situations, being able to get an idea of what questions are being asked. So I don't see any problem at all with him being present and taking part in the questioning of the quarterbacks. He's already came out and said, look, I'm going to be a part of the NFL draft. I was a part of the NBA drafts. So he's like, I'm not, the owners are not picking any players. We're not picking any players, but we're going to be present, and we want to be briefed as far as any hard decisions that have to be made. I think it's important for the owner to be there, but ultimately, I get the feel that he says, "Look, it's up to Adam Peters ultimately to make that decision." Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, they both have to be on the same page, and Cliff Kingsbury as well.
Yeah.
So I didn't really. I know that a lot of people on social media were like throwing up red flags, and I'm like, pump your brakes. I'm like, you're trying to stir that drama. It's like watching a episode of Young and the Restless or something like that. It's like, I mean, they're trying to find something, and I felt like anything that's been unifying for us Commanders fans has been Josh Harris, because he seems like the guy that everybody likes. There's still a honeymoon phase, but guarantee you, us Commanders fans going to find a way to end that honeymoon phase really quickly, because that's we've been jaded for so long, right? So, but the more I looked into it, I was like, look, he needs to be there. He needs to understand how this works. But he's not going to be the one making the decisions. He's going to leave that up to Adam Peters and company, and he's going to trust that they make the right decisions. But I think it was important for him to at least not only to see how the process is laid out, but also to network. He's the new kid on the block, so he needs to be able to network with other scouts, with other coaches and whatnot, and just get a feel. He needs to get his feet wet in the NFL. So I didn't think it was a problem.
Great. Yeah, I like that. Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, you can be involved without being in the way. And Dan Snyder was in the way, to the point where he was making decisions on who to draft. And, he's made some bad decisions, especially at quarterback. I mean, Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace. 1 year Ohio State. Pye got drafted a little too soon, just RG3, how much we gave up for him. And yeah, I'm a big fan of RG3. Not so much post-career because he talks too much. But,
oh, man.
But I mean, you can be involved without being in the way. You know what I mean? Because
that's true.
You want to see him up front, because look, he's got a lot to stake with this organization, because I mean, he's got to recoup 20 years of damage that Dan Snyder's done, because you got to realize Jack and Cook had power. He had power that stretched to the Capitol building.
Yeah.
I mean, he had respect from government officials. I mean, this guy could write his own ticket in DC. And, you go from that to Dan Snyder, where you lost all the leverage. So, because if you look at what's going on in DC right now, you got the Wizards who potentially could be staying in DC. So now they're working out their arena renovation. And then now we're trying to get our stadium. So there's he's got to be up front and present, because he's got to revitalize the stadium, man.
Exactly.
Because when you go to home games, it's rarely are we the majority. He still has to get a lot of fans come back. So, he's got to be the face. And so I totally get why he's doing that. And like I said, he's being present, but he's not in the way like Dan Snyder was. So I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I agree with both of y'all wholeheartly. Twitter space could be like a bad tornado. It's disaster after disaster after disaster.
Yes.
Because like you said, Greg, they want something bad to happen so bad till they say, "Oh, see there, I told you he wasn't no good. You know, he's a basketball guy. He should have never been owning this team and everything." And I was like, I said, this man knows what he's doing because he has multiple businesses
Yeah.
across the sports land, from baseball, hockey, basketball, now football. Now, even though he's selling his majority stake with the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's he's put because he's owning another football team, so that only makes sense. But Twitter is there for me to gather information, and I just try to not to get too deep in it because people they mind switches like crazy, and I think it's some of the older ones along with the new ones in there. It's like kind of like enjoy the process. Don't be so like last year. I was so excited, and I went to training camp for 2 days, filmed everything. I got to talk to Brian Mitchell a little bit. I missed the chance to talk to Santana Moss and everything, but I talked to some other greats there, just getting their insight and how they feel about it. And everybody was so hyped for last year. I mean, going into this year, I was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna win about 7 or 8 games. I think we're gonna make the wild card." No, I just saw the wheels constantly roll off the track from week one when we almost lost to Arizona, and I was at that game, and it was like raining. I was like, "Okay, this is not a good sign." And I was like, and then you got an Arizona fan just talking trash, wanting us to lose. And I was like, and then poor Sam, like you said, Sam was getting beat up. I mean, his body got to be made of hard clay or metal or something, or he an X-Men, something.
Yeah.
I mean, he was really getting banged up. And this brings me to another question for y'all. How would y'all feel if they decided to say, you know what, hey, let's give Sam a 1-year run just to see what he could do? We could still draft a quarterback in the later round. Still are some great quarterbacks in the later round. They could trade their second round pick, trade down, beef up everything. We got a lot of money free cap, and we still could cut to go over $100 million. So, how would y'all feel, Brandon? This question for you: if we decide to keep Sam Howell. Now, hold on before you answer that. Just remember, Twitter is watching you.
No pressure.
Look, man, you know what? I cover the Wizards, man, and we're 9-50 right now, so I'm used to the pressure, man. So I'll say this: I would not be disappointed, and I get why they're looking at quarterback to a certain degree at 2, because look, everybody wants a Mercedes, BMW, right? But you already got a Toyota Camry with 40,000 miles on it. Is proven that he can hack it. So I mean, here's the thing: I mean, he's shown that he's got the poise, he's got the intangibles. He did falter in the end of the year, but look, the old line was legendarily bad. I mean, the only lineman that really, in my opinion, is a future piece is Cosme. I mean, the line was that bad. I mean, you had inconsistency on the defense. Eric Bieniemy was inconsistency in play calling, didn't run the ball enough. I mean, clock management under Ron Rivera. I mean, so many different factors that really came to him kind of going down slope a little bit towards the end of the year. He showed that he can make those throws. That throw he threw to Scary Terry in Denver. Come on, man. I ain't seen him throwing like that in a while. So he's got the intangibles. So I get why they're looking at quarterback, but here's the thing. We have a lot of holes. I mean, quarterback is not a quick fix for this franchise. Middle linebacker is something we desperately need. We need a leader on the defense. London Fletcher was the best linebacker we had in a long time at DC because he was a quarterback of the defense. Cornerback, we need a lockdown corner. Put Forbes on the other side. St. Juice needs to get walking papers, and Kendall Fuller needs to go somewhere else. Go get a lockdown corner. Put Forbes on the other side. We have holes. So quarterback, that's why I said it kind of leads into my next point. Trade back. Bo Nix, look at his stats. He can play. You sit him a year behind Sam Howell, see what Sam Howell can do with reinforcements to O-line, weapons on offense, revitalize the defense, and see what you have, because you're not starting from zero. He's not a scrub. He's not a bust. He's shown he can play. But people forget, and it goes back to Twitter, where people want immediate results, which, it's a process. I mean, you're not going to, because it's a team game, man. It's not like the NBA where you can roll with 3 superstars and then, your bench can be like pieces together, minimum contracts, and try to win a championship. Nah, you in the NFL, man, key pieces matter. Left tackle matters. Middle linebacker matters. Lockdown corner matters. So, go, trade back, go get that left tackle out of Penn State or Joe out of Notre Dame. Go get a left tackle, because we still missing Trent Williams in DC. Go get left tackle. Go get Bo Nix. and you can potentially get a couple of receivers in this draft because this is a receiver heavy draft. So I get why you're looking at the Beamer, man, but don't forget, you got to import them parts in, man. Look, you already got that Camry right here, man. So roll with the proven commodity. So
I like that analogy though, because I work at BMW. So I like that.
look.
Hey, I actually make the cars for BMW. Don't work as a salesman there, so I make the cars for BMW.
So you know why? So you know what the logo is, BMW, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a propeller because they used to make airplane engines in Germany before World War II.
Yeah. So
that's just a little known fact.
Yeah, well, thank you for that tidbit. So now when I go to work tomorrow, I'm just like, I learned something about y'all, a little bit more about y'all yesterday. Greg, go ahead.
Yeah. So honestly, I'm an old school old head, I guess. I always feel that no matter what, unless that you have a team, especially on offense, that already has all the pieces together, you already have a top 10 offensive line, then regardless, if you draft a quarterback at number 2 or if you trade back, I think you still should consider letting him have a clipboard for at least half a year. Because here's the thing. Yes, we've got all this cap space and we got draft picks, but you're still not going to be able to fill every single position that you need in one offseason.
That is true.
So now they could try their hardest to get as many guys, on that offensive line as they possibly can. But, the thing is, what you also have a piece into it is that you have a brand new offensive system being installed. So it's not just going to be your quarterback who's going to have to learn that offensive system. It's everybody on that offense. Even though you got guys returning, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, B-Rob, they still have to learn this. And so everybody is in this learning phase for the first year for this offense. They're not going to be able to help a rookie along, So it'd be different if this offense was already installed. The offensive linemen already kind of know their duties. All your skill positions. They know the offense, and so they can kind of help to pull the quarterback along a little bit and to help him out. But everybody is going to be on the same page or at the same starting point, and so I think that becomes more difficult for a rookie quarterback. I think, honestly, you go ahead and you start Sam Howell anyway, at least for half a year, just to get things going so that rookie can look and see the flow, see how things need to be played. And then, once the kinks have worked out, you're seeing that, okay, Sam Howell, we've given him another half a year. We realize he's back up at best. Maybe it's time to bring in, Daniels or Mayer, whoever we wind up drafting, or Bo Nix, whoever it is. I just feel like it's so crucial in that first year, the first couple of years for your quarterback. You got to develop him right. You got to run the football, and you've got to be able to make sure that offense you institute matches the quality and the talent that you have there. And there's a lot of unknowns going into this. So to throw any of those quarterbacks, I don't care. Like I said, I don't care if you're drafting a quarterback at number 2 or you're drafting him in the second round. That is a big ask. And I know that there's going to be people that's going to be like, yes, we drafted our Jaden Daniels or our Drake May or whoever, and then they go out there and they struggle. And then they're like, you know what? He was a bust. Let's go draft another quarterback next year.
Oh yeah, that bust word will come quick.
It comes quick because I tell you what, that first half of the season last year, almost everybody on social media was singing Sam Howell's praise, and then things started unraveling. Well, of course they would. When you have EB telling them to pass the ball like 80% of the time, and he's not giving B-Rob the rock. I mean, what do you expect? His arm probably wore out after a while. I mean, you could tell that because, as Brandon alluded to, that pass in Denver, he was not making those passes toward the end of the season because he was wore out. And so you can't do that with a young quarterback. You got to bring him up right. And I don't think that there's any crime, whoever you draft, in setting them for a year, letting Sam do his thing. Yeah. I mean, if Sam is able to have a full year of playing well, I mean, why not let him continue to play? I mean, that's me. That's me. I am in the camp of whoever Adam Peters and company decide is the best one for QB1. I'm getting behind that guy 100%. Don't care who it is, and I'm going to support him until it's obvious that he can't play.
I agree. I totally agree. Because I mean, I like Sam Howell. I just hated that he got beat up so bad.
Yeah.
And we never addressed the offensive line since the year before when he did set. And we had Carson Wentz. Then we went from Carson Wentz to Taylor Heinicke, which I like Taylor Heinicke. It was some intangibles that he have done. He kept us afloat. But Ron Rivera and Scott Turner, they decision making, and I guess they had some kind of like tug of war with each other or who they wanted to be in, and it kind of like derailed the team. Now our receivers didn't have the best year this year because we didn't set up for success the way we was. Like Greg said, Brian Robinson is a monster. He carries the line almost 10 to 8 yards every time he touches the ball. He's good out of the flank. He knows how to do real routes real good. We didn't use the strength of our running backs as well. Tony Gibson was a non-factor most of the season. Our tight ends was obsolete. Logan Thomas is a shell of himself. We should have cut him in the offseason, but we put a Band-Aid on him and just say, hey, go out there. It's World War II. If whatever you could do, just pick up a hanging and just throw it. And it didn't work out the way it needed to work out for us. And Eric Bieniemy, he was too stubborn. You have a stubborn head coach, a stubborn assistant head coach, and then you have a defensive coordinator that was stubborn. So you had three stubborn facets of the team that the players just didn't know which way to go. Benjamin Seju had a lot of problems the year before. Poor Manuel Forrest was getting toast out there because they were just throwing, okay, yeah, you got all these interceptions in the SEC. Go out here and just make something happen. You can't do that. The team has to be constructed the right way. Yes. And looking at Joe Gibbs and looking at Dan Quinn reminds me of Joe Gibbs right now. Even though he blew that lead in the Super Bowl, but that was part of Kyle Shanahan too, because Shanahan has to take the pill on that. But when you're playing with one of the best ever, Tom Brady, and you know what he's capable of, you have to play differently, So, and we've seen it now with Mahomes right now. You got to play these guys differently. But I think Dan Quinn learned, and I think him being in that area, even though he went to college up there, is going to help him. And I just look at it, the way this coaching staff is constructed is so beautifully mastered. I have not seen a coaching staff like this on any team, since we had Mike Shanahan doing there. And all of them was young. We got veterans, guys that have been in the game that knows what they're doing. So that makes me feel a little bit better and everything. And like you said, Brandon, Lord have mercy. I mean, when Trent Williams, we lost Chris Samuels, we replaced him with Trent Williams. Brandon Sheriff could have stayed. We could have had two of the best offensive linemen with this team if Ron Rivera had just took care of them. Did whatever it takes. We wouldn't have had these conversations now. Now we just got to rebuild the whole line. I'm not a fan of Andrew Wiley. I'm not a fan of Charles Leno. I always say Charles Leno's best asset is making babies. That's it. That's it. So, but everything else, no. So it's going to be a building stage for this team and everything. And I just think that we are, like I said before, we are in the prime midst of having, a good off season, and we just got to put it on paper. No matter who's going to be QB1, The offensive line has to be dressed. The linebackers have to be dressed. And now go to my next segment is free agency. Now, all these running backs that is not getting the franchise tag, and I read a rumor. I did a video on Tony Pollard, or Tony Gibson, and then I heard Barkley. The Commanders were interested in Barkley. Now, Greg, which one would you want to be a part of our backfield to complement Brian Robinson? And mind you, I think DeAndre Swift is available too.
So get this: 3 running backs that are in the NFC East that could possibly stay in the NFC East. I mean, honestly, any of those 3 I would take. I think Barkley is the most special out of the 3. I know he's had injuries and stuff like that, but when he's on it, I mean, he can take a game over. He's a game changer.
Yeah.
And I would definitely take a long, hard look at Barkley now. Now, Brandon did a video on that, and, I'm reading the comments, and most people are like, we got Brian Robinson. We don't need a run back. And I'm like, okay, this is not Madden. You need more than one running back,
Right. Not technical.
It's not Tecmo Bowl, exactly. John Riggins is not going to run every single play. And even back then, he had Joe Washington to kind of spell him and Kelvin Bryant. So, I would say that Barkley, the 1-2 punch with the Barkley and Robinson.
Ooh.
And then you got Chris Rodriguez, who is not too shabby. I really liked Chris Rodriguez.
Yeah, he runs hard.
Yes. So you have 3 guys there that could really control the running game. And we've already heard it from Dan Quinn that he wants to run the football. Now, I know he's the defensive-minded coach, but he's the head coach. The head coach wants to run football.
I like that.
So, yeah, I do too. And so if he could persuade Barkley, I know that a lot of people have already said, and Adam Peters have kind of alluded that, they're not going to really be doing a lot of splashy signings in free agency. That doesn't mean they're not going to have at least one splashy signing.
Yeah.
And I think Barkley that's the one that I would choose, but I do like Pollard, and Swift. They're not too shabby either. I would be happy with either 3, but I think out of any of them, Barkley would be my choice.
Yeah, I agree with you. Brandon?
To me, it's 50-50. I'm going to start with Saquon Barkley. I would bring him to DC if it was a 1-year prove-it deal. I'm not going multi-years with him because of the injury history. He's only had 3 seasons that he ran over 1,000 yards, and out of those 3 seasons, 2 were 1,300 and 1 was barely over 1,000. So he's had his injury concerns. But if it's a prove-it deal, his speed with power with Brian Robinson, I think it would be a 1-2 punch that would definitely enhance his offense. But Josh Jacobs, same thing. Josh Jacobs is a similar runner like Brian Robinson. He's a bruiser. Yeah. I would go with Swift, and I'll tell you because Swift is a guy who is a third down back. He can get more active in the passing game, and he can, definitely complement Brian Robinson better. And you don't have too many issues as far as injuries. And he's a dog, man. We need more dogs in this team, and he's definitely got a dog mentality, man. So, if we're able to add Swift with Brian Robinson, that running back room, including Chris Rodriguez, we're looking good. But Saquon Barkley's like, man, it's like this. You remember those old Saabs, ugly Saabs, man? But they always had like mechanical issues, man. It's like getting a foreign car, but then it's like, man, it's always breaking down, man. It's Saquon Barkley. He intrigues you, but then it's like, when is he going to go down? It's not if. It's always a matter of when is he going to go down, and we don't need that instability. I would definitely go Swift, man, because he can definitely get active in the passing game.
I have to say all these automobile comparisons it's making me depressed because I got to put mine in the shop.
Hey, one thing I can say, Brandon has the great analogies, man.
Yes, he does.
I'm sitting here like, you know what? I thought I had them analogies, man. I'll turn my title over to you. You got it, my man. But you know what's funny though? Like you say, Barkley is like Bumblebee before he got a new body.
Yeah.
And it's just that such a great talent. He's hard and everything, and I think that bringing him on a 1 year rental would be the best feasible idea. But I think that his price is going to be a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's one thing we have to look at. And I think you could sneak a Swift or a Pollard in there, because Swift and Brian Robinson kind of like the same, but I think Swift is a little bit faster than him.
Yeah.
And I don't think Swift was used correctly in Philly anyway. You know what I'm saying? So, and you got two tough guys in the backfield. Pollard, you seen that he kind of got worn down because he didn't have Zeke Elliott there, and everybody thought, okay, he's a number one, and it kind of showed that he wasn't, because now they had to bring on the running backs in to get him a breather and stuff like that. So having him with I compared him to Chris Thompson we had years ago.
Yeah.
So Chris Thompson was so electrifying, but he could never stay healthy.
Yeah.
That was the bad thing about Chris Thompson. But when he was there with Alfred Morris and all of them, man, I was like, I'm sitting here thinking in my head, I said, man, we drafted Jaden Daniels. We get a backfield with him and this person here, Brian Robinson. We look like the Baltimore Ravens, but just faster. A great offense. I'm playing all of these scenarios in my head already. And I was like, we already got the receivers. This, and easy. And I think the tight end is going to be crucial too. We got to nail that. And Cole Turner, he ain't never got a chance. And we still got the other ones that got injured in the offseason that's still there. We don't know what they're going to be like. So we missed on a lot of tight ends last year in the draft. We could have addressed that. That was another issue we could have addressed. We had more offensive linemen that we could address last year in the draft. We didn't do that. It was just seemed like you bake a cake for your 15th birthday, but all of a sudden it just go flat by the time it reach your hand. And so it's like, I'm like sitting here like, what is Ron Rivera doing? I mean, some of these guys are hit and miss, but I do think that at the end of the day, the offense got to be a little bit better. The defense has to be exceptional. And I think I'm not even worrying about the defense. I think Dan Quinn is going to have his whole print all over that defense, him and Joe Witt Jr. I'm not even worried about the defense no more. I just want the offense to be a little bit better, whoever we have behind there. Before we wrap up, I have one more question for y'all guys. I did an article today because I saw it out there earlier about the RFK Stadium. And we already know that a lot of the fans out there saying, oh, bring the name back, Redskins back, which I really believe that's not going to come back. It's going to be down to either Red Wolves or Warriors. And Warriors sound a little bit better because you can bring the old logo back with it also. So with that being said, how do you feel? Do you feel confident that since the House passed, now we one step closer and hoping the Senate could say, hey, okay, we got this? Because Greg, you alluded to it. Josh Harris is the new face. Jack Ken Cook had a lot of power. Yeah. Josh Harris could be the new Jack Ken Cook for this franchise. You go. I'll let you go ahead with that.
Yeah, I think that honestly, the reason why that we didn't get that site was because of Dan Snyder. I think Dan Snyder was so hated. He was just a villain, a straight up villain, and especially when all of those allegations came out, that was like the cherry on top. No pun intended, I guess on that. but anyway, so of course they're going to be like, no, they were doing everything they possibly could. It was like. It was like the nerdy guy trying to ask out the cheerleader, and the cheerleader keeps dropping hints as to why she doesn't want to go out with him. It's like she's like, well, you got to do this, all these impossible feats in order to get the date, and it never happens. Yeah. It's kind of the same way. It's like, DC was like, well, you're going to have to change your name. And, of course, Dan Snyder didn't want to do that. I mean, yeah, a lot of us fans didn't want the name change, but that was really important to Dan Snyder, to not change the name. And so then it's like, okay, the name gets changed because the sponsors are dropping out. And so then he feels like, okay, we've done that. So now we can go back to looking for sites. And then they were still like, nah, we're not going to play ball with you. But now that they've kicked him out, Josh Harris, I thought I read somewhere where Josh Harris, because I know that he had been looking at or in the process of, building new stadiums and stuff for the basketball team. I thought I read something like that. Maybe I dreamed it. I don't know. But anyway, and heard about him like maybe investing a lot of his own money into that. So let's say he goes that route and he's like, look, the majority of the money to build new stadiums is going to come from me. I don't want that burden on the city or anything like that. I just don't see how it's going to fail at this point. At first I felt that there was no way that we were going to get the RFK site. I really thought Virginia was already in it.
Yeah.
And then until recently, when, what's his name, Ted?
Leonsis.
Yes. They kind of shut him out. Virginia kind of, I guess, voted that down. Suddenly, RFK, D.C. is back in the running, and no one really seems to want Maryland to have anything to do with it. And so at this point now, I really feel like you would have to really mess up in order to not give that RFK site. I feel like it's a done deal. I think it's going to pass the Senate, and once it passes the Senate, then that's going to be our new place, or our new old place. And I feel like that's where they belong. Now, the only thing that I really thought might hinder the area is a lot of times now when these NFL franchises are building new stadiums, it's not just the stadium. They're building up an entire infrastructure, commercial infrastructure of, hotels and restaurants and shopping and all that. You probably don't have all the space around RFK to do all that, but from what I'm hearing, they want to build all of that around a brand new practice facility. So if that happens, then let's go ahead and let's get the old RFK site. Now, the name's not coming back, unfortunately or not, but I'm with you, Martin. I was like, get the old site. Maybe if we're able to get Warriors or something like that. And I know that it's still going to be the Native American imagery if we brought back the logo, but the logo was never a problem anyway.
Yeah.
Anybody who said it does not know the history. So, I mean, that would be the closest to literally bringing everything back to the way that it was. And so I'm all for it. I think they're going to get the site. And I think they're just waiting on another rebrand until a new stadium comes back or comes into play. So we may be waiting on that for a while, but I think it will happen. I think the RFK site will happen, and I think another rebrand will happen.
Yeah. Brandon?
I'm with Greg, man. I think that both will happen. I think priority has to go to more to one to the other, in my opinion. Looking at the stadium deal, Ted Leonsis, hated to love the whole potential move to Virginia, because like I said, I cover the Wizards, man, so it's a hot topic in the DMV. But he showed that money talks. Look, he lit a fire under the mayor's office in DC, and they got active pretty fast because he showed that money talks. That he can make that move. And Josh Harris, he's got to take that power back as far as ownership and how much ownership has power in politics in DC. Because like I said, Jack and Cook, he had his hand in a little bit of politics in the Capitol building, man, and he had a lot of respect in Washington. And Dan started kind of just trotted out under his foot. So like I said, Ted Leonsis hated to love the potential move to DC or Virginia, which I don't think is going to happen. But he showed that money talks. It got both parties talking, didn't it? Like, I mean, Youngkin jumped on it. I mean, Mayor Bowser was talking about it. I mean, people were, it became a hot topic. So it shows that these teams have power because they bring revenue. And in these states know that whoever gets this team, they're going to get a boost in revenue. And looking at RFK, I think you definitely got to bring it back to DC. Obviously there's a lot of examples of teams in all sports that play outside. The Detroit Pistons play in Auburn Hills. The Giants play in New Jersey. There's a lot of examples, but just looking at the history, Josh Harris wants to bring that glory back, and doing that, in my opinion, you got to bring it back to DC. RFK site, you definitely have to bring him back, and I think he will eventually do that. Looking at the rebrand, like I said, I grew up, Redskins fan, and with the whole, I believe it has always been a hot topic with changing the name and all and stuff like that. It's always been pro and con. I personally, I didn't really care. I just like football, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
obviously business came to make that decision for Dan Snyder as far as people were ready to take their money and go elsewhere. So I understand why he did it. But here's my thing, man. If you look at most sports names, most of them are corny. Let's be real. I mean, like the Wizards, like for real, like there's no magic in DC, man. Like what we doing with the Wizards, man? But people were upset going from the Wizards to the Bulls to the Wizards. So I mean, I can understand it, but in the same degree, I don't care, man. I mean, just win some football games. I mean, you could be the Washington Honey Biscuits, man. I don't care. Just win some football games, man.
Sounds delicious.
Can you imagine that commercial?
Oh man, because look, there's a minor league baseball team, the Montgomery Biscuits. I mean, I'm telling you, there are some crazy names out there, but I get the connection to the past, and I definitely get that. But I don't, I may be the minority, but I don't care, man. I mean, let's just go win football games because you could be whatever. If you go out there and win, people are going to stop caring. I mean, Commanders is a little generic, but I always looked at it. I'm former military. I'm U.S. Army, 7 years, man. So I always looked at it as like an ode to the. Oh, I absolutely appreciate it, man. I always look at it as like an ode to the service members. Because Washington D.C., you got the Pentagon, you got a lot of military bases, man. The team does a lot with veterans and does a lot with active duty personnel. Because I up until this year, I was a season ticket holder for 3 years, so every game was always like had a lot to do with the USO and a lot of the connection to the military. So I always look at it like that. It was a positive step. And I get it, the name's corny, man. But I mean, look at most teams. I mean, if you look at most sports teams, either A, the name came from a previous city they were a member of, like the Lakers, because why they call the Lakers? Because they used to be in Minneapolis. Yeah. Or if you look at other teams where it's just a corny name where you just kind of got used to it. Because it took a while for the Wizards to get used to it, but now it's like nobody's thinking about the name. So I get it, but I think we have a lot more priorities to get out the way till we even talk about a rebrand. Because I mean, if we get a whole, if we're the Red Wolves and we're 0-17, like I mean, the name just doesn't seem that important. You know what I mean? So let's get the performance out the way, and then we can have that conversation down the road.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there is not one thing that either one of y'all alluded to that I could disagree with, because I think winning cures everything. If you win, everything is going to be looking rosy. The name is going to pop. The stadium is going to pop. People are going to be flocking in. You might have the whole District of Columbia area. You're going to have like new residents and all of this stuff. And I agree. It's just a matter of time for the RFK thing just to finish pushing through. The name doesn't really matter to me. Like I said, I was born and bred a Redskin fan. Yeah. I was good with the Washington football team. I mean, it just fit. It fitted perfectly. It's like, and then they came up with the Commanders. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, Generals, Commanders. And I was like, it kind of like, because I read an article like years ago that I did that if Jeff Bezos had owned the team, he could have potentially moved his team to Tacoma, Washington, where there's a military base down there. And the biggest casino down there in Tacoma, which I used to live on the West Coast for a while in Seattle. So I knew all of that area. And I was like, that would be hurtful if this team was to go to the Pacific Northwest. I was like, there will people be traveling. I would just have to relocate to be closer to my team. So, but thank God that didn't happen, because I was not a fan of Jeff Bezos owning this team. So, but all in all, I want to say thank you guys for joining me tonight. I try to get, guys, especially people that talk football with a deeper knowledge than myself, and I love it. And I love what y'all do. I'm a big fan. I'm going to continue to support y'all channel, try to catch y'all, a lot of y'all videos and stuff. So with that being said, tell everybody where they could find y'all.
Well, certainly you can, number one, you can find us on YouTube, and my Twitter handle is, I don't do a personal one anymore. I just do it through the Maniacs. So it's WF Maniacs. If you want to follow me on Twitter and see me get all grumpy with some of the other fans. I try not to sound grumpy, but sometimes I'm like, dude, you need more coffee. You're not, just back off. Just have some fun. But and also the podcast, we're starting to branch off into doing audio podcasts on Podbean. I need to upload a few more of those, but we're also going to hopefully branch out into Spotify, Apple Podcasts, basically anywhere where you can get your audio podcasts. We want to have it there. So maybe you want to listen to us as you're driving, to work in the morning. You don't have to actually look at our ugly mugs. Well, Brandon's, he's a much better looking guy than me, but we just want to be available anywhere. Not that we are any more special than anybody else, but we're just, a couple of guys who love to talk football, and we enjoy it. We love our team. We're very passionate. And I think we give a different point of view a lot of times than what others do. And I try to play devil's advocate and just get people to think. So overall, we have fun.
Oh, yeah.
Great. I'm in, Brandon.
Oh, yes, sir. You can catch me on IG and Twitter at Brandon_7Scott. When I'm not chopping it up with Greg on Washington Football Maniacs, I do Wizards content over at Locked On Wizards, man. So definitely check it out. It's been a long year with Wizards. Lord have mercy. I've contributed to Bleacher Report. I'm a media cast with PSF. So I'm trying to stay busy, man. I'm trying to definitely stay busy. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the season, man. It's going to be a good new era for Washington football, man. So
Awesome. And for myself, you can find me on IG, Twitter. I have a Facebook group on YouTube. I also have my own blog site with WordPress, LiveWire Entertainment, but it'll be changed to LiveWire Media. Just put a new article, and absolutely you could. This live will be downloaded to audio for my Anchor podcast that you can find on Spotify and Apple. So that will be probably uploaded later or early in the morning, so you can recap and everything like that. But again, thanks again, guys, for joining me. I look forward in the future to chatting with y'all guys again. It's been a pleasure, man. Greg, I could say this: you got the best co-partner. You had the best co-partner. Just hearing y'all talk, watching y'all, and just to be able to interact with y'all is a blessing to me. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't get a chance to meet a lot of people or interact with a lot of content creators because there's so many of us. And a few of them I have met in person, at the stadium and stuff like that. But just to share knowledge and insight and see things from a different perspective is really great. So I thank y'all guys so much for joining me today. And anything that I could do for y'all in the future, hey, to get in touch with me.
Yes, sir. Likewise.
Likewise. Thank you for letting us be on your show. We've really enjoyed it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Again, this is LiveWire Sports Media, and we are signing off. God bless. Good night.